and welcome to my channel. My name is Lynn, and today I'll be sharing the 10 Lunar New Year cards that I created using the Spellbinders Lucky Love card kit. This is an older kit. This is from, I think, January of 2021, so it's a year old now. But I got it while it was on clearance specifically so that I could make these Lunar New Year cards because I am in love with this little lucky cat. You often see it in stores and restaurants because it's supposed to be sort of a good fortune token. And so it's perfect for something like Lunar New Year, and of course accompanying these cards will be some lucky money, which I'm sure is what my nieces and nephews are most looking forward to when they get these Lunar New Year cards from me. But I decided, even though usually with Lunar New Year you see a lot of red and a lot of yellow and gold, I decided to just keep with using the pattern papers that actually come in the kit. So I'll start off by showing you how to assemble the cat. I first just backed the eyes, ears, and nose with some black cardstock. Then there's a separate die that cuts out this, which is sort of the spring action mechanism, and the die does put in score lines, so you just want to fold in this shape, sort of a V with some extra little wings on the left and right side. Those extra wings are the glue tabs that will adhere to the card base and to the cat's paw to give that little spring action, which is just a fun little interaction with this cat. I think it's super adorable. The cat paw that moves is also in two pieces. So there's the paw and then there's the arm, which has a score line that you want to just give a fold to. You don't have to fold that all the way back because it doesn't ever fold down completely on itself. Then you also have these coins, which I like to die cut twice out of two different colors and then inlay the hearts into the center of the opposite color. And here's how you attach the little spring interaction piece. I just put glue on the little tab, and I'm positioning this so that the arm, the gold piece of the cat, completely covers this mechanism. That way from the front you won't see the little the white cardstock. And so I'm just going to give that some time to dry because I'm working on mirror cardstock and I'm using liquid adhesive. I am using my reverse tweezers to really hold everything down in place. And this little collar and sort of just little, I guess, handkerchief that the cat can wear is two pieces layered as well. And so you can die cut the collar out of maybe like a mirror cardstock if you want it to look like it's metal, or really just any color. So here I've just used some of the pattern papers. And the die that cuts out the body of the cat actually cuts these slits so you can tuck the coin behind one of the paws like I did just there. And I want to attach the interactive paw, the paw that's actually, kind of got the mechanism behind it. So that has a little glue tab that you can just put glue and attach it behind the body. And then the final touch will be this little belt that can hang off of the collar of the cat. And so when your cat is completely assembled, it'll look a little bit like this. I'll give you a close-up of it in a little bit after I put the foam on the back. So I've started to use this low-profile foam. That's what I'm calling it anyhow. It's only 1 millimeter thick as compared to my regular foam, which is 2 to 3 millimeters. And this low profile foam is really, really great for when you just want to add dimension. You're not making a shaker or anything like that. So you don't need a little bit of, you don't need a lot of height. You just want a little bit of height just to have it pop up from the card a little bit. And the reason why I like this is it's nice to have just that little bit of extra space for a little bit more interest, but it won't add to shipping costs. And so here's a close-up of the cat completely assembled. And since I was making 10 cards, I did make all of my cats in advance except for the collar and the coin, which I waited until I knew the pattern papers that I would be using. That way I could coordinate the collar and the coins to match or coordinate with the pattern papers. So now let's get into the making the cards. So this first one, I'm using a cover die that I have that cuts out the starburst pattern. And I don't know why I didn't think of this on my first card, but when I die cut this the second time, I remembered to just keep all of the cut aparts, the parts that fall out of the die, so that I can get a little bit of a 2-for-1. So I'm using the die cut itself as a template for placing these little, I guess, the sun rays back into their original location where they fell out of. And of course, you don't have to exactly do this because you could just eyeball it and space it however you like. But I figured since I hadn't glued down the starburst yet, I could go ahead and just use that as a template. And this outer border here is actually a leftover die cut from another frame and border die that I have, and I'll mention it again when I get to that card. But I kept that piece so that I could use it as a border element. And then this card I'm keeping pretty simple. I'm just gonna position the cat's head so that it's the center of where the starburst pattern starts, and I think that helps to kind of bring extra focus to the cat itself. And the extra coins that I have, I'll just go ahead and add those as well. The solid color cardstock and the pattern papers on these 2 blue cards do come in the kit. And this starburst pattern, the reason why it looks cut off there is because it's actually designed to be a 5x5 unit or piece. And so what I've done is just cut my pattern paper to 5 inches by 3 3/4, and that gives me a nice even border all the way around, and it sort of just maximizes how much of the starburst pattern I can use, since it's not designed for an A2 size card, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, but I made it work because I actually don't mind, and actually kind of prefer that starburst pattern is a little bit off center. I think that just visually looks a little bit nicer than to have it centered. So that it worked out really well. And here are the 3 cards that I made using that pattern. I'll show you how and where I add the sentiment later. But here you see another sort of window frame die that I've used, and I'll link to everything in the description box below if I can still find it. But I had originally cut down my solid color cardstock to the full 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and then I die cut this frame out of it. So that left me a thin border, which I saved and used on, you saw me use the blue one on the previous card, and I'll use the pink one on another card as well. So again, that sort of gives me a nice 2-for-1, and this frame die, border frame die, or window die, it's really nice because it gives you some opportunities for different little scenes, or you can inlay different pattern papers like I'm doing here. I've got that XOXO gold foiled pattern paper, which I love. That's one of my favorites from this kit. And so I've got a band of that in the center. I inlaid the same solid color cardstock into the upper left-hand corner, and that's where I stamped and embossed Year of the Tiger, since 2022 is the Year of the Tiger according to the Chinese zodiac. And so this window frame die I really like for that reason. You have a lot of different ways you can use it. You could stamp and color different scenes in each of those windows, or do what I'm doing here, which is to use different pattern papers in each of those openings. And so with leftover pieces from some of the other frame die cuts, I inlaid those back in as well, since all of the papers in the paper pad coordinate with each other, so you can mix and match and it'll all look really nice. So here I just stamped in black this time and used some clear embossing powder for my sentiment. The previous two I used gold embossing powder. And for this one, I'll use more of that low profile 1mm high foam to pop up this sentiment as well. And I have the same foam for these cats as well. There is a band, sort of a strip behind kind of where the cat's eyes are, where I did not have any foam, and that's because there's an extra layer of cardstock with the frame. And so just to try to keep everything as level as possible, I avoided putting foam there. And on this cat, I'm not sure how I forgot, but I did forget to put a coin in the cat's paw, but I already glued things down. So I tried to lift up the paw a little bit, but again, I've got my foam behind there, so I didn't try too hard because I didn't want to mess up that paw too much. But I did manage to get it on there. And so here are these 3 cards. And while I am making 10 cards, there really are only 4 unique sort of designs. So for this one, I am using some of my leftover pattern papers from the previous cards, and again, since it's all from the same pattern paper pad, they all coordinate really well. And here's me using those really short pieces of my Love from Lizzie's pinstripe stickers. So you can see I don't have a full strip running top to bottom, but because I've got that panel that's going to cover a good majority of it, this is the perfect scenario where saving those little bits and pieces is worth it, because you have the illusion of a full stripe going up and down, but you haven't used a full stripe. You've just used some leftovers. So that's why I keep even those short segments of stickers. And when I attached to my cat on this one, similar to what I was mentioning on the previous card, I only put an extra layer of my low profile foam on half of the cat, the right half, because the left half, a portion of it is covering the mats and layers of that extra rectangle. And so just to keep things as level as possible, I only added foam to part of it. So with this card, I did gut out the center of my first matte layer so that I have another matte in the same color for the smaller rectangle, but I did add some just white scrap paper to that center so that I don't have like a saggy middle. And then that gets me the extra matte layer without having to cut into, well, actually I didn't have another sheet of this pink, so the only way to get enough solid color cardstock to have the matte layer behind the XOXO pattern paper was to gut out the centers of these panels. And so that's a way to just kind of, if you need to stretch your papers a little bit more, don't use a full sheet behind there, just gut out the center, since it's going to get covered anyways. No one will ever know. And so I'll just add some gold sequins, which do come in this card kit, and it's a generous supply of sequins, especially when you use them individually like I am. Okay, so now for some glimmering. I don't think I've ever glimmered on camera before, so here's one way to glimmer some sentiments. You could use, I think what Yana calls the Hinge Mechanism, which is just to use some tape and tape your hot foil plates to the cardstock that you want to foil onto. And then put your foil so that it's actually the pretty side is touching the foil plate, and then just tape that down onto your cardstock. And while I'm at it, I like to foil as much as possible. So here I'm just foiling some birthday sentiments, since they're always nice to have on hand. And this mat that I'm working off of, it's from We Are Memory Keepers. It's a small cutting mat that comes with this magnetic ruler. So that's really nice for these foil pieces, because they are so thin, they tend to curl up on you, and so having that magnetic ruler is really nice for holding down that foil. So when you glimmer, when you turn the rocker switch on, that turns on the glimmer machine and you'll see a red light. That's your topmost light. When the second light turns green, that means it's ready to start warming up your hot foil plate. So you can put your hot foil plates onto the gray area of your glimmer. And then when you hit the timer button, the third light will start to blink green like it's doing here. When it's solid, then you can pull out that entire unit and run it through your platinum die cutting machine. You don't need to run it through the machine with anything else. This is your full sandwich. So it'll be the hot foil plate, your hot foil itself with the pretty side face down, your cardstock, and then the glimmer plates that come with it. So there's actually two. There's sort of this frosty one, and then there's the shim, the clear shim, and I use an extra cardstock shim. I found that gets me the best results. And so if you don't want to use the hinge mechanism, you can do this as well. You can just place your hot foil plates with the foil and then your cardstock and just layer it up directly on your glimmer machine here. And it really just depends on how whether you're gonna end up die cutting into your foiled sentiment, which I plan to. So the positioning of them on my cardstock really doesn't matter too much to me, since I know I've left plenty of room around the foiled sentiment so that I can die cut it into the shape that I want. And I do have the solid Pink Fresh Studio hot foil plate. This lets you use up your scraps. So I've got my leftover pieces there that I was able to make use of as well. And I have sort of the inverted of the Happy New Year sentiment. And I foiled those onto just some black cardstock so that the text is black with a gold foil background. And so here I've already die cut all of my sentiments, and this particular little badge, I think it's from Atomic Studios labels and badge die set. If I can find it, I'll link to it in the description box below, along with everything else that I used. And this badge has a sort of a matte layer to it as well. So I die cut that out of coordinating papers from the card kit, and I'll go ahead and add those to all of the cards that I did not put a sentiment onto originally. And so these cards came together really, really quickly. Here's a final look at all 10, and I really love using these cover dies, this frame window die. It makes for just some added interest and is a way to sort of, for me, easily mix and match different pattern papers, and it's really fast too. So you get some really interesting and different looks, but it hardly takes any time at all, and I think it's just a fun way of mixing and matching pattern papers, solid color cardstock, and I really like the color palette. I think it works well with the Lunar New Year. Even though it's not your traditional red and yellow, I still think it's pretty cute, and the kitty is really adorable as well. And since these are going to my nieces and nephews, I like having the different designs so that within each household they're not all getting the exact same style of card, so everybody will get something a little bit different, which is something that I like aiming for. And if you like this video, please consider liking, commenting, and sharing. And if you want to catch new videos as I publish them, consider subscribing to my channel and ringing the notification bell. Thanks so much, and until next time, happy crafting and have a fantastic day. Bye!